Hey there. Welcome to Mike's Collection, episode 199. I'm Mike.
I'm Chad.
And the part of our collection that we're going to be talking about today is pretty much the same thing that we always talk about, is just random odds and ends. Usually when I have a whole set of Marvel Legends or Star Wars Black Series, I kind of do a devoted video, and I'm often flying solo for those. But when I'm lucky enough to have you here, we just kind of shoot the shit about whatever's going on.
Whatever's going on.
So, I had a few topics noted since you've been here last that we could talk about. The first one I wanted to mention is, because the last episode you were here, we talked about the Hiss Tank.
Yes.
And so I did officially back the Hiss Tank. I forget what number I was, but I grabbed a little screenshot when the little ticker went up one number with my... So I backed the Hiss Tank, so this is the 6-inch... Well, it's a Hiss Tank scaled for the 6-inch G.I. Joe classified line. I think it's supposed to be like 19 inches. So I don't know. It's going to be big, and I have no idea where I'm going to put it once it gets here. It's going to be like this monstrosity behind me here. This was something I ordered, but then when it arrived, the practicality of it kind of hit me, and I was like, where's this going to go? And yeah, the Hiss Tank's even wider, like in all four dimensions, so I really don't know what I'm going to do.
I do have a question about that backing, though.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know if this was a rumor or not, because Hasbro was putting out, like, hints about the next reveal.
Yep.
And they would always do it with Cobra Commander, talking about the reveal, giving, like, clues and hints. So, Did I actually see correct that he's the next reveal?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, the way they put this out, it's like they have these different tiers. So first off, they needed to have 8,000 people buy this thing at $300 US. And if they hit that 8,000, then they would make the tank. And they made that in the very first day, which doesn't happen often. Sometimes these things, they go right to the last minute. Mm-hmm. The last G.I. Joe, the thing they had done on HasLab was a Sky Striker jet for the 3 3/4 inches, and that didn't look like it was going to make it. So Hasbro some of the goals they promised if you hit these tiers, they kind of started giving them out early. They're like, look, if we hit this lower tier, we'll still give you those toys, like really trying to drum up interest. They didn't have to do that with the Hiss Tank. They said 8,000 to get the tank, and that happened within a day, it's pretty unprecedented. And then they said for every 2,000 more, we'll give you an add-on. So very quickly, so first off, by getting that 8,000 in one day, really all they asked us to do was get it in a week, and they were going to give us a bonus figure. And I think by the time we had talked about it last time, that was already done, right?
Yes, yeah.
So I knew I was going to get 2 figures if I backed it. And then the next tier was, so at like 10,000, they gave you, I think, some extra side-mounted missile launchers. So we knew that. I think I knew that was a lock last time we talked. And then they gave us a different type of canopy and some extra little attachments. That was this third tier. And then after that, they gave us a female pilot. Did I mention that in the last video?
Yes, yeah.
So I think that's where we were. And that was all within a couple of days of the launch of the project. It was all happening very fast. And so there was only one tier left, which was 16,000, which if they doubled the amount that they needed to make it, they would give us a 4th tier. There was a lot of speculation that it might be a little tow vehicle because the Hiss Tank has a little tow. Yeah. But what it was a Cobra Commander decoed in his classic 80s look. Because we have a couple Cobra Commanders in the classified line, but he's a little more regal. He's got some it's just his outfit's a little more fancy, a little more busy. So they just simplified him, gave him the old cartoon look. And it's an all-new sculpt. And he's got a bunch of cool accessories. To be honest, it's not really something I felt I needed because I have so many Cobra Commanders. I would have preferred a 4th Hiss Tank driver just because they're troopers. But it's still cool. I already was going to commit to it anyway.
Yeah.
So to get this Cobra Commander, which is a nice looking Cobra Commander, that's just a bonus. And I'm pretty happy with it. So I don't think, because now it's up to, I think it's over 17,000 now. So they've done another 1,000 since they unlocked Cobra Commander. And people are still being like, oh, maybe they'll throw in some more stuff. I don't think there's any incentive for Hasbro to give us more free stuff. If they said, we're going to give you another figure, is that really going to get a bunch of people that weren't already committed to all the sudden buy it. I don't think so. I think all they'd be doing is giving guys like me that already committed our money just more free bonus stuff, and Hasbro's not really in the business of
giving free stuff away.
Yeah. So I think it's done, but I still think for $300, like 4 figures, like the figures retail for about $40. Anyway, well, I guess in the States, about $25 each. So that's $100 worth of figures right then and there. But consider they're exclusive figures. You can tack on, like, say, another $10 a figure anyway. So, like, I don't know. That eats up, like, half the value of the thing. And the tank itself is awesome. So I'm really excited about it. So
I thought that was kind of cool. I mean, I'm not really invested in G.I. Joe as much as you are. So
yeah.
I just started following, like, a couple Facebook pages after you sent me the link to the video that we watched with the reveal, and I mean, I think I knew enough to know that they were going towards a Cobra Commander, but I just wasn't sure what type they were.
Yeah, he was pretty cool. Like, I'll put up a picture of him here, but you see how classic he is compared. Like the ones we've got, like he's still got the battle helmet. I think fans would have been even more stoked. Maybe not in place of a battle helmet, but if they'd given us a Cobra Commander with a battle helmet and a swappable head with the hood, that's what a lot of people want, is the hooded Cobra Commander, because he had those looks pretty much equally in the old days, in the comics and the cartoons. I don't know this for 100% fact, but it's been alluded to that they don't want to do a hooded Cobra Commander in this day and age, given the political incorrectness of it or something, which I don't want to seem insensitive, but I'm like, it's not a pointed hood. It's not. It's a hood. Like, I really don't see the hood, especially he's part of a fictional terrorist group. It's a blue hood. It's not representative of any real life organization. I don't really see the problem with it. I'm curious if Hasbro really, like, for one, I don't know this is even the reason, but they haven't given us a hooded Cobra Commander for a couple of years. And Super 7 licenses G.I. Joe from them, and the guy that owns Super 7, Brian Flynn, does videos, and he kind of indicated that they don't want to do the hooded Cobra Commander. I don't know the reasoning, but people have kind of assumed it's because it's not politically correct. And if that's true, I'm just curious, like, is it factual, though? Like, have they gotten complaints from parents that they didn't like it, or do they just, I don't know. It seems silly to me.
It's a toy. It's a toy.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's almost as ridiculous as not giving G.I. Joe's guns anymore, or whatever toy line. I mean, we still get weapons with G.I. Joe's, but toy lines that are canceling guns and stuff.
Yeah, it seems like a weird choice to me, and like, if there was a valid reason, like if there's connection to the blue hood that I'm not familiar with, then sure. But like, my mind goes to like the Klan wears hoods, and that's the association of them. Like, but that's such a stretch to say that. Like,
it's from the 80s when we weren't even as focused on that kind of thing. So
anyway, whatever. So I would have liked a hooded Cobra Commander just because we haven't got one in a while. Especially we don't have one in the 6 inches. I already have 3 battle helmet Cobra Commanders, so a 4th one, even though it's a little more retro, isn't really a huge plus to me. But
so here's a question I've always wondered, because I was late to the G.I. Joe party. Did you ever see what he looked like without his helmet on?
That's debatable, because yes, there's two kind of main continuities to G.I. Joe. So there is the cartoons, and then there is the comic books.
Yes,
and to some degree, even the file cards on the back of the package are almost their own universe, sort of. Yeah. But in the comic books, it started out much more real world in that Cobra Commander his background was a used car salesman. He was kind of disgruntled. I think, he got overtaxed and he lost his business. I forget the details of it. But anyway, he was a used car salesman. He started this organization and it ballooned into Cobra. And you always kind of wondered what he looked like. There was an issue of the comic book where everybody unmasked. So, because we'd never seen Destro, we'd never seen Snake Eyes, we'd never seen Cobra Commander. So we found out what Destro looked like, and he was just a kind of a handsome dude with brown hair, pretty unassuming. And then Snake Eyes, we found what his face was. He's a blonde guy. His face is all scarred up. He's got one eye kind of bulging out of his head, and he usually wears like a rubber mask to protect his identity. Cobra Commander, he had little round like John Lennon sunglasses on, and he had like a long kind of handlebar mustache, and he had a ponytail and a beret.
Oh boy.
But the thing of it was, when we saw that, the thing is, Cobra Commander and Destro, and again, I'm trying to remember back to comic books from like that I read 35 years ago or so forgive me if I'm getting some of the details wrong. But Cobra Commander and Destro got stranded somewhere, and they had to kind of get back through Middle America back to Cobra headquarters. Then they couldn't be walking around with these Cobra outfits on. So they broke into a department store, and then they came out and kind of like, what do you think of this outfit? So they were in disguise. And so at that point in time, you were thinking like, okay, well, at least now we know, say, Cobra Commander is like a white guy. We know at least that much about him. But the mustache is probably fake, and the sunglasses, he wouldn't really wear a beret. Has he got a wig on? Does he really have a ponytail? It was supposed to be a disguise. However, they have shown him wearing that disguise subsequently. So it's like, is that really what he looks like? Or is that just his preference for when he takes his mask off to have a fake mustache and a ponytail? I don't know if they ever really confirmed that. Yeah, this is straight up what the guy looks like. And then in the cartoons, do you know about the cartoons at all?
No.
All right. So this was weird. And this happened when I was a kid, so I still like it, but it was weird. So there was 2 seasons of the cartoon. And the cartoon seasons were long back then. They were like 45 episodes. Yeah. So there's a lot of G.I. Joe. And then they kind of like wrapped it up essentially with a movie, which was supposed to be a theatrical release. But the theatrical release never happened, partly because the Transformers animated movie, which came before it, didn't do very well, not as well as they'd hoped. Yeah. And also, they killed Optimus Prime in the Transformers movie. Spoiler alert. So they were going to kill Duke in the G.I. Joe movie. And there's a scene where Serpentor wears the whole snake outfit. He has like, I don't know how, he has like real snakes coiled around his neck. And he pulled his snake off and like straightened it like an arrow and threw it into Duke's heart. And he fell down and essentially died. And then the movie carries on. But at the end of the movie, when all the Joes are cheering because they won the day, you hear somebody yell out like, "And Duke's going to be okay!" And they kind of added that because there was no scene with Duke coming back again. But I think the blowback from killing Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
So they resurrected Duke. Anyway, that's not really the point. But so in that movie, they revealed that there is this secret group of snake people that live in the Antarctic called Cobra La, kind of like Shangri-La. Mm-hmm. And they've been around since before modern man, and they had been kind of retreated into the Arctic.
Okay.
And they wanted to take back the world, so they sent one of their own men, Cobra Commander. So he's a snake man from the middle of the earth, essentially. They sent him to start terrorist organization Cobra to disrupt Earth and take over. And so that's where we learned. And when he got unmasked in that, and he had blue skin, like he was like an alien looking kind of guy. And then because they were mad at him because he failed, they mutated him with spores, and he turned into an actual snake, like a slithering snake. And so there you go. You can take your pick on what Cobra Commander looks like.
So I guess I just have one final question. Was it as disappointing as finding out what Dr. Claw looked like in Inspector Gadget?
Well, I watched some of Inspector Gadget when I was a kid, but I wasn't very invested.
Yeah.
Like, sure, and did they show him in the cartoon? I know there was like a toy that revealed.
Yeah, he was like the blonde hair, and he looked just like a mad scientist, which was kind of.
Yeah, it was underwhelming for sure. Yeah, but again, I didn't care. But yeah, Cobra Commander, it was weird.
Okay.
I don't know if they ever could have really lived up to the expectations, but neither the cartoon or the comic book really was a satisfactory answer.
Right. Okay.
But anyway, we talked about that much longer than I ever anticipated.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, so the Hiss Tank, I backed it. I'm going to get it in sometime in 2023. So it's probably not till the end of 2023. So it's like a good year and a bit out before I get that. But if I'm still alive and still doing this, I will show you it for sure when I get it. Okay, so next thing. So G.I. Joe is my kind of main thing. Your main thing is McFarlane Dc Multiverse.
Yeah.
So there's been a bunch of reveals since we last talked. I'll let you take the lead on that, but before you do, I went out the other day with my brother, went out toy shopping. He went out and bought a whole bunch of Marvel Legends. He dropped like $230 on stuff. I was actually very well behaved that day because I only spent $30. I got one figure. And it was a DC Multiverse figure. And it was this guy. So I ended up buying one for myself and one for you. So yeah, I sent you the picture and I was like, which one of these do you want? Because I could have bought you the whole lot of them, but then you would have been into me for like $300 or something. Yeah. So here's Ghost Maker.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And I will splice in a review of him at some point. Like here is, I bought him as well, so here's my opened version. So yeah, if you want to take a look at him and talk about him, what do you think?
Pretty solid character, so I'm kind of excited about this. Ghostmaker was developed in the current run of the Batman comic.
Yeah, just James, I don't know if it's Tinian or Tynan.
James Tin. Let's go with Tinian.
Tinian the fourth. The third or fourth? The fourth?
Yeah.
Okay. James Tinian the fourth is the writer.
Created him.
And Jorge...
co-created him. Yeah. Jorge Jimenez,
yeah.
Yeah, so, like, I've become such a huge fan of Jorge's work as an artist. Super cool.
Yep.
And I follow him on Instagram, and I remember him developing this character, and he was teasing like sketches of him and what he looked like. Now, I'll admit I am not caught up in the current continuity, so I don't know anything about him. I haven't seen him in the comics yet due to my backlog, but I heard he was going to be a US exclusive for the longest time.
Okay. And
they finally released him in Canada. And I belong to a DC Multiverse Facebook group, and someone started one for Canada, and I noticed he was popping up at different parts of the Canada. So people were posting it, and hadn't seen one here for the longest time. So he's probably like 3 months behind other stores in Canada, in Nova Scotia anyway. Yeah. So yeah, when you sent me that text the other day with the pictures, I was like, oh my god. So money hasn't been very good lately, but I did end up getting a second job, so I figured, you know what, why not spoil myself and buy one figure. I've been very good lately. So yeah, I'm kind of excited about this guy. He looks super solid. I did watch a couple reviews.
He is cool.
By some DC reviewers, and they had nothing but good things to say about him. Looking at him right now, like, I like the cloth kind of texture. It's plastic, but it does look like cloth from a glance. And he's got super cool articulation. Some of the reviews I did watch, they said he's super poseable, and I can see that right now. They had him in all kinds of dynamic poses. The next thing would be the Black Adam figures. So
yeah, so if I can just interject for one
second. Sure, absolutely.
So here's a closer look at Ghost Maker. I'm not very familiar with this character either. He was only introduced about within the last 2 years. Although I did recently read some comic books with him in it. I don't buy Batman monthly. I intended to buy the trade paperbacks, but I haven't done so yet. I'm not even sure if they've all been released for the stories featuring this guy. But I do buy Robin's comic book every month. And they recently had a crossover event called Shadow War. So it crossed over with the Batman book and the Deathstroke book. So I bought both of those for a couple of months just to get the whole storyline. And Ghostmaker was featured in there. So I think he was introduced kind of as a villain for Batman, but now he's more like an anti-hero. He's actually working alongside Batman, leading his team called Batman Inc. So yeah, here's a closer look at he's got a weird design in his pants. Very strange. I like his little shoes. So he's got these two swords as weapons, and you can see they can be sheathed on the back of him there, underneath his cape. Like, the sculpting is really nice, where you see all these like textures in the cloth. This is what Chad was talking about, how it looks like real material, even though it is just kind of like pliable plastic. Just a really cool design. I really like the look of this guy. He's very unique, very interesting. And yeah, I think this is an awesome figure. And yeah, for time constraints, let's move on. Yeah, so when I got him, they had all the Black Adam figures at Toys R Us too. And they had Grifter and the Joker Dragon and Godspeed. All these characters that I hadn't seen before. So they had like 10 or 12 new figures there. And yeah.
Yeah, the Joker Dragon, meh. Kind of It's like the death metal series, I think. I never really got into that, but having all the Black Adam figures was kind of interesting. Now, we did mention this in another video. I think it might have been video 3. About the heads. Like, so they marketed 2 Black Adams.
Right.
One's got just Dwayne The Rock Johnson's head, and then you have another figure, the same sculpt and everything, with just a hood over his head. So, I mean, marketing ploy, obviously, to make more money, but I don't think that's necessary. I'm not too into all of those figures for this line. So, if I do pick them up, I would probably just get the hooded Black Adam, because I think he looks the best. And Hawkman. I was impressed with that Hawkman. Did
you see him yet? You saw the toy?
Yeah. Haven't read the Hawkman much about him or anything, so kind of on the fence. But yeah, just seeing him in like pictures of him, it's like amazing. So a lot of that stuff came out at Comic-Con recently, and the reviews for most of those figures were pretty good, with the exception of, you know, the 2 Black Adams and the separate heads.
But not to sit, like, again, I don't know what the reviews are saying, but like, neither of them are bad figures. It's just, you feel like you're getting a little ripped off having to buy 2 of the exact same figures, when so many other companies like Marvel Legends and Mattel, they give you 2 heads, so you can just change them out. So yeah, that's McFarlane. We've been complaining about this in almost every video we've talked about, that it's frustrating. You have to buy Batman with a mask, then this Batman without a mask, when you think just swap the head. Swap the head. So yeah, but at least it's not a Build-A-Figure. Like, you can just choose the one you like best and forget the other one.
Yes, and the other one, so Atrocitus, he's going to be a Build-A-Figure for one of the waves. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it might be like deceased, kind of infected. It's the infected wave. So I was like, I'm not really into all those figures as well. So, you're kind of, bring them over.
Yeah, we'll keep talking.
You're always going to get stuck buying figures you don't want to get the full figure. So I'll probably end up doing that, even though I don't want to. But Batrocitus.
Well, Atrocitus, for those that don't know, he's a Green Lantern villain, and he is a Red Lantern. And originally he was like the first and only kind of Red Lantern, but then he started his own corps, and he had a whole bunch of Red Lanterns. And he was introduced during the time Jeff Johns was writing Green Lantern. We've talked previously about how we're both Jeff Johns fans. He does a really good job of taking characters that are kind of like faltering a little bit, and then he like really elevates them with some cool new storylines. He's done it for pretty much every DC major hero. So yeah, this is Atrocitus. He's like just this big, angry, pissed off red guy. I love him. And I got this figure from, I think this is a Mattel one, actually. But I got this figure because I think it was the first ever Atrocitus figure made. But he struck me as kind of small here. Like, he looks like my Green Lantern figure over there could beat him up. Like, he just doesn't seem as buff as he should be. Whereas this guy should be kind of like how Venom is to Spider-Man, Atrocitus should be to the Green Lantern. He should be a big, menacing guy. So as much as I was glad that I got a figure of this guy, it never quite lived up to my expectations. And even though I don't buy a lot of Todd McFarlane's figures, I've been looking forward to him doing a nice big version of Atrocitus. So to see that he's a Build-A-Figure and I have to buy like 5 other figures to build him, it's kind of a bummer. I don't know if I'm actually going to do it. I'm leaning towards not, but...
Same boat, but I don't have an Atrocitus figure, so
yeah,
I will probably take the plunge and buy all the figures. They did release a picture of Batrocitus, which you sent me yesterday.
Yeah, I think it was just yesterday that they revealed that.
And then I haven't stopped thinking about it since, because at first I was like, meh, I don't think I need that, but now I'm like, I kind of do want it.
And at first, when I first saw it, so what it is, and I'll put a picture up here. So it's kind of a mashup of Batman and Atrocitus, named Batrocitus. And so when I first saw it, I was kind of scratching my head. I was like, what the hell is it? I didn't know if it was just something Todd had come up with on his own, kind of like, they do mashups with, like, here's Leonardo the Ninja Turtle dressed up as Dracula for some reason. You're like, what is this mashup? Like, why is this happening? And so I didn't know if it was just complete, but apparently it's been established. It's a thing from the comic books, at least. And he looks cool. Like, so you're going to get him, you think?
Yeah, I will. I will probably buy him.
Yeah, I don't know if I will. Like, I wish the Atrocitus was a Build-A-Figure, and I could just buy Atrocitus. But anyway, yeah, it's interesting.
So the other thing that kind of annoyed me that came out of Comic-Con, too, is we haven't had a McFarlane Bane figure. And, like, on his own. So, again, you could get the Build-A-Figure parts, which I had to buy a couple figures I didn't want in order to be able to get the Bane parts, which is still not assembled.
And was he black and white or like
he's
grayscale?
Black. It's like grayish with black. So
yeah, it's a weird one. Like, yeah, he was Build-A-Figure a couple of waves ago. You had to buy 3 or 4 figures to build a Bane.
Yeah, didn't really appeal to me. Now what they did is at Comic-Con they released this picture of Bane from Nightfall. So he's like the big Jack Bane, like Bane should be, and he's on his own. So had I have known that, I could have saved, probably $100. But I'll end up buying him too.
Yeah.
So I think it was a good haul for McFarlane Toys at Comic-Con. And he's always doing like his own little special releases and stuff too. So it was great. He just had his McFarlane Days a couple weeks ago, maybe last week, where he elaborated on some of the stuff that's coming up, and yeah, some of it seems okay. I was pretty impressed that they did have a Godspeed at Toys R Us, though.
Yeah, I don't. Do you know anything about that character? I had literally never. I
know he's from the Flash.
Well, that was obvious, yeah.
I've only run into him because I haven't always followed the Flash comics. I've only run into him through the TV show, the series on Netflix or CW.
Yeah, so the figure I saw at Toys R Us today,
it's the white.
He looks like the Flash. Like, he's basically a white version of Flash, except instead of his mouth and nose exposed, it's a full face mask.
Yeah.
And he looks cool. Like, I like the look of the Flash.
Yeah.
I like the yellow reverse Flash. So seeing him in this kind of like, pearly white outfit, like, it looked cool, but I was like, I don't know if I should buy this guy. I almost just bought it just on the cool factor alone.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't know who this character is. I didn't really want to spend money that day, so I kind of said, I'll leave him behind. And there was like 4 or 5 of them there, so I wasn't too concerned about leaving him. But I did go home and I Googled him, and yeah, I saw he was introduced, I think, in 2015 or so. He was a cop that worked with Barry Allen, the Flash, and then something went wrong and he became a bad guy, yada, yada, yada. So I might pick that up next time I see it.
Me too. I was impressed because he's another one that I didn't think we'd see in Canada, because he's been out for almost a year, I think, in the States. So we're pretty slow getting things here in Canada, especially if they're listed as exclusives, because they don't always show up right away.
I saw one, I don't know if this was special, but I was at Walmart literally just a couple hours ago, and they had the Azrael armor, all silver.
Yeah.
And it was one of the gold label.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if that was anything.
They have like 4 versions of him too. They have normal Azrael, they have McFarlane sculpted Azrael, then they have a Batman and Azrael armor, and then I
kind of regret not buying the red, like the standard classic Azrael when I used to see him around everywhere, because I don't have an Azrael in my DC collection. Yeah. And I thought that figure looked cool, but I was really trying to steer away from the McFarlane stuff at the time, and I was like, don't buy that. But now I can't find him anywhere, and I'm like, I probably should have bought him.
You probably try Amazon.
Yeah, I still, like, it wasn't that long ago.
Right.
He might still be, like, maybe even out with some of the comic book stores if I dig for him or whatever. But, like, I remember seeing him at Toys R Us, like, on sale for, like, half price and stuff, and I still just didn't buy him, but I probably should have.
That's what I'm trying to do with our local Toys R Us with all the Batman figures, because there are, like, 3 or 4 I don't have, and they have so many of them. I'm just waiting for them to go on clearance, because they haven't moved in months.
All right, let's see. I had a couple other notes of things to talk about. So another DC figure that they revealed that I was kind of interested in. So I saw some other goofy kind of ones, like there's a Superman as a Spartan warrior. So Superman he looks like he's from the 300, It's based on a comic book appearance, but it doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah, nothing for me either.
But the Deathstroke, did you see?
I did.
And what are you thinking?
I might have to.
Because I have a Deathstroke. I'm not going to bother digging about over there, but he's the same as this. I think it was Mattel's line, and they were all kind of too small for me. And like most of my DC collection that I have over here is from the DC Direct company, and I really liked those DC Direct figures, and they tend to make a good bulky figures. Like the Superman are, girthy. But then when I bought some of the characters from Mattel that I wanted to use to fill some blanks in my collection, they always came out too small. Like they weren't in the same scale. Like they're both the same height, but you can tell they're so much skinnier. So my Deathstroke is similarly too small. So when I saw the new one from McFarlane, I thought it looked pretty cool. I think I'll probably end up picking that one up. I kind of wanted to talk about some of Super 7's recent reveals, which is kind of a bummer because they're cool. I want them, but they're like San Diego Comic-Con is happening like right now as we record this. I might not get this posted until after the weekend, but regardless, so there's going to be all kinds of reveals. Like just today, there was all kinds of new Masters of the Universe reveals, which look pretty cool. It looks like they're doing an Eternia play set, which
I thought of you. Right?
Like it's cool. Like I didn't have the Eternia play set when I was a kid. It's kind of a big sought after collectible nowadays for the vintage Eternia play set, which is essentially just 3 towers kind of connected by a little like monorail train track. It's not that impressive of a like it's big just because it takes up a wide space, but it's just kind of 3 towers. And it was released so late in the vintage line that a lot of kids, like I didn't even know it existed because it came out after I stopped buying He-Man figures. That in the years since, as people have gotten like adult collectors like me have money and they want to collect what they loved as a kid, everybody learned about this Eternia playset. And it was made so late in the line that there wasn't a whole lot of them out there, and it's become very highly sought after. And now, with the Masters of the Universe Origins line, where they're recreating the old toys, I never would have thought they would do this, but they're recreating the Eternia playset. And so my first impression is like, oh, cool, I got to get it. But then my rational brain starts kicking in. I'm like, it's really, I don't think it's that impressive of a playset. It's not really as impressive as even Castle Grayskull. It doesn't look as cool. It's very big. It would take up a lot of, because again, with 3 towers and the monorail has to attach to them all. So a lot of retail on a shelf here or something.
Space is a commodity.
Yeah, and it's probably, the Castle Grayskull was $100. This will probably be $200. It's just, I think it's neat. But I don't think I'm going to be buying it.
What was your favorite He-Man?
Like figure
release they did?
Oh, my favorite Merman is my favorite.
But out of today.
Today, I kind of like. So I know this is kind of weird. But if you guys watch my videos like regularly, I don't know how many actual regular viewers I have. There's probably like 5 of you out there. But and he's 4 of them. But I recently posted like 2 videos ago, I think, my top 15 of 2015. And you might think, well, that's weird. Why is he posting that in 2022? And as I explained, it's because I used to do a blog for many years before I started this YouTube channel. And then when I started doing the YouTube channel, I stopped doing the blog, and now I do my my best toys of the year video. And I thought, you know what? I've got lists dating back to 2012. It might be kind of fun to translate those lists into videos, and it might be fun to revisit stuff. So I decided to do my best 2015 video just the other day. And one of the figures on that list was from the Masters of the Universe Classics line. He might still be on the floor here. We haven't yet. I wasn't planning on talking about him, but he's still here because I haven't put him away yet. But this is the Snake Armor Masters of the Universe, like He-Man. So this is based off of a look from the 2002 cartoon, which was kind of a short-lived contemporary revamp of Masters of the Universe, where all the characters got these kind of more exaggerated anime-style designs. And I really liked it. A lot of people did, but it didn't last. It wasn't a hit with kids for whatever reason. So then in the Classics line, one of the reasons I liked this figure so much is because the Classics line didn't delve into that era of He-Man very much. They tend to focus on the old vintage stuff from the 80s. So when they did touch on that 2002 era He-Man, I really liked it. So this He-Man is a He-Man from, I think I said 2015 is when it came out, obviously. And it was based on a 2002. So now, in the Origins line, which is the like a little 5-inch line, kind of squattier. They look like the old retro toys, so they don't look like the classics, nor do they look like the 2002 redesigns. But anyway, one of the figures they revealed today was Snake Armor He-Man, this guy, in the Origins line. So I'm kind of excited about that one. Like some of the other characters they revealed, like the Snake Men, like Rattler and Tongue Lasher. Like I like those characters, but it was sort of so obvious those figures would be coming. But I didn't know they were going to go into the 2002 era. So just like I was excited when they added him to Classics, I'm excited that they're adding him to Origins.
Nice.
But yeah, Super 7. So they have some exclusives. You can only get them at San Diego Comic-Con. I think they said if they have any left over, they might put them up on their website. But will there be any left over? I don't know. So that's kind of a bummer because it sucks when you want something and you're like, Like I might be able to go on eBay and buy this stuff, but it's mostly reaction figure stuff. And reaction figure stuff, it already feels kind of overpriced. It's painful to spend this money on a little 3 3/4 inch figure that barely moves. So then you have to pay like jacked up 2 or 3 times the price on eBay. That's
also rough. That little San Diego Comic-Con exclusive sticker drives that price up even more. So.
Yeah. So like one of the things they did is like they've taken 3 of the main Joes and 3 of the main Cobras and they released them on new cards and they called them Glow Force.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of a corny little, but they're cast in glow-in-the-dark plastic, so they look really bright. And the card art is the same card art that was on their standard figures, but except now it's all glow-in-the-dark and it's all bright. And that's the kind of thing, it's just like a fun thing. Super 7 is all about fun things. They do so much glow-in-the-dark and like day glow, weird colors and stuff. And in the old G.I. Joe line, they would always take figures and repaint them into little sub-teams. Yeah. So they had like Slaughter's Marauders and they had Tiger Force and they kind of take a theme and paint it, but just a way to resell the same toys over and over again. So Glow Force is kind of like right in that same vein. It's a little goofier, but I could totally imagine that having existed in the 80s. So I see those 6 figures. I'm like, I'd love to have those things, but I'm not going to pay top dollar for them. So that's too bad. The other one is they have this box set called the Temple of Darkness.
Okay.
I don't know if you saw that, but it's based on an episode of the old cartoon. And, as a kid, like I would have loved to have some of this episode-specific toys, but over the years I've kind of like forgotten about them. I don't watch the G.I. Joe cartoon on the regular or anything. Like a while back, they released a dog sled set. So it's this like blind old man with a dog sled and actual like 6 dogs attached to it. And that appeared in like one episode of one cartoon when Snake Eyes got like irradiated in the Arctic and this guy rescued him. And, a lot of Joe fans might have forgot all about that guy. I'm like, oh yeah, some random old blind man. But, the fact that Super 7 made him and the whole dog sled and everything, that's just cool that they make these weird oddities. And so this Temple of Darkness set is another one of those things. It was an episode where some of the Joes infiltrated Cobra headquarters and they had to dress up in Cobra disguises. And so they've got Snake Eyes and Shipwreck in Cobra uniforms. Then they've got some Cobra troopers with some specific tweaks to the outfits that matches the episode. And they also have a big drone robot that was like shown patrolling the headquarters. And they've never made that drone robot in any format, in any figure. So, you're getting these things that you never would have had before. And which as a kid, I would have loved to have had.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty nice set. But I'm sure I can't remember what they're retailing it for there. But considering I think it's 5 or 6 figures plus a robot. Like it's probably like $150, and on eBay it's going to use it $200, and
then shipping.
Yeah, so I don't think I can do it. And then lastly, they have so in their G.I. Joe Ultimates line, which is their line of 6-inch, really detailed, cartoon accurate G.I. Joes. So the first 4 figures in Wave 1 are Duke, Cobra Commander, Snake Eyes, and the Cobra Bat. Those aren't scheduled to ship for several months yet, so like it'll be a while before anybody gets their hands on them. But they have in hand at San Diego a Cobra Bat repainted in the G.I. Joe comic book colors, so he's more blue than he is black. And they actually, rather than just a straight repaint, they actually sculpted a new head for him, and they gave him some new forearms and everything. So that would be people's opportunity to get the first ever like Ultimates G.I. Joe and kind of get a sense of how this line's going to like work. And I would really like to have that, but again, it's going to be really expensive on the secondary market, and I'm probably not going to get it.
Which breaks my heart, and why I made that little sad face there a minute ago, because I had to cancel some of my Super 7 from Big Bad Toy Store today because didn't have the funds. My Cobra Commander.
Yeah.
And my Destro. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. You'll have another chance at them.
I know.
But yeah, these Super 7 things, they're expensive. I'm not saying they're not worth it, but I started out. Again, I don't want to repeat myself. I've said this before, but like with Ninja Turtles. Yeah. I know there's a whole bunch of Ninja Turtle figures, but for me, I only needed a couple of core characters. So I knew I was only going to buy 5 or 6 or 7. But with G.I. Joe and Transformers, I want them all. Like when I was a kid, I collected them all. In the modern day, I collect them all. When they're in Funko Pops, I buy them all. When they're ReAction figures, I buy them all. And now they're making these Ultimates figures. And my just natural instinct is buy them all. And I just start pre-ordering them all. But these things are like $75 a piece. I can't collect a line of 100 figures at $75 a piece. It's too much. So I'm still wrestling with that decision of what Ultimates I'm going to cancel, because I'm definitely going to have to cancel some of them. G.I. Joe, I might just have to get like my select favorite characters, but it's going to be so hard to cancel Cobra Commander and cancel.
And I know, and that's what I did today, and it hurt doing that, but again, at the end of the day, I'm not as invested in it as you are, so I think I might have to wait for some of them to come out, see the reviews. If you pick up specific ones, maybe that'll influence me. Like
the Transformer ones, like I got Wave 1 of the Transformers, and I and a lot of other reviewers were kind of largely disappointed. Like they weren't bad, but there was shortcomings on a few different figures. And maybe that'll happen with G.I. Joe too. That's the thing. Like to buy 4 figures, like with blind faith, and say hopefully they're good. And they've screwed up some Thundercats, they've screwed up some Transformers. That I don't want to get these G.I. Joes and realize like, oh, Snake Eyes' arms only bend this far, or Duke's head only turns like this, or Cobra Commander's missing a knee or whatever. And then they say, okay, well when we do version 2, it'll be better. Like maybe for this line I should sit back and kind of wait for version 2 or something.
And they weren't like small shortcomings. They were pretty significant ones with like the joints and arm rotation, and like specifically Optimus, where he couldn't get his arm up super high.
Yeah. Now this is a good little segue. So we're talking about Super 7 stuff. I think that's all I really had to say about their San Diego stuff. So we're recording this a little kind of late at night. Actually, it's a weeknight, and it's like 11 o'clock or something. We're here doing this. And the reason for that is because you were working, and also my little brother, who I don't talk about him nearly as much on the show, because I talk about my older brother, Doug, because me and Doug shared a bedroom when we were kids, and we played together, we collected together. My younger brother, Brian's like a few years younger than me, and we weren't as, we were close, but we didn't like play together.
Yeah.
Like, I was kind of getting out of toys a little bit when he was in. Anyway, so he lives in Miami, whereas Doug just lives down the street. So I see Doug all the time. He's the one I went toy shopping with the other day, and he bought all those Marvel Legends. Brian, he doesn't care about toys, at all. He's a normal, like he's a real grown up. But when he lives in Miami, so he's in the States, I'm in Canada, and there's a lot of store exclusives, like Walgreens exclusives, Target exclusives, that I can't get here in Canada. Sometimes they sell them at different stores up here, but even when they do, I find they're really hard to get. Like we don't get very many numbers of them. So anyway, Brian is really good about when he goes into a Target or a Walgreens, he'll like, Facebook call me and be like, "Do you need any of this shit? Do you want any of this?" And so I do say like, "Oh, can you get me that? Can you get me that?" So like, for example, last time I saw him, I think was Christmas, and he showed up and he got me the Target exclusive Battleground He-Man and Battle Cat set, which was only available at Target. He also got me like a Walgreens Marvel Legends of Moon Knight at one point. Anyway, so he just came home today. He's here for like a week. So I was just down at my parents' house having dinner with him, and that's why we're recording late. Anyway, so he brought me some stuff, even in a Target bag here. So,
and it's plastic.
Yeah. So
we don't have plastic bags here in
not
Canada.
Not many. Many. I don't know what it's like in the States there, but yeah. Anyway, so here's Snake Eyes ReAction figure. Now this guy's pretty cool because it's basically a figure that Hey, you know what? I don't think it is. I was actually thinking this was just a repaint of the figure that I already have.
Looks different.
But looking at him, yeah, I think he's a little like thicker, and I think this is a completely different sculpt, which is a surprise to me. I actually thought it was, I thought it was a figure I already had. Even better. So this is cool. But the previous Snake Eyes I have was in kind of his purpley blue outfit, which is based on how he appeared in the cartoon. Whereas the solid black Snake Eyes, that's what most people know him from in the comic books, from the toy itself. And the card art on this is so different from all the other G.I. Joe reaction figures. Like, that's straight up the cover of issue 21 of G.I. Joe, the comic book. You get some panels from the comic book on the back. Do you know anything about G.I. Joe issue 21?
No. I know something significant happened to Snake Eyes.
Yeah, I'll give you like the very quick. So, when Snake Eyes first came out, like the first waves of G.I. Joe in 1982, my understanding is that he wasn't intended to be anybody special. Yeah. They were basically trying to save money, so they said, let's just do a figure with no paint app. So he's cast in all black. They didn't do that to make him the coolest figure. They just thought it was a cheap way to make an additional character because they didn't have to paint his face or his belt or anything. It's all black. But over time, he became such a fan favorite, and he kind of had this mystique built up about him. But he was a G.I. Joe Commando. That's what his file card said. He wasn't like a ninja.
Yeah.
And then a couple years later, they introduced Storm Shadow, which was the Cobra Ninja, and nobody really knew, like, what's this guy's deal, Anyway, so it was issue 21 of the comic book written by Larry Hama that gave us our first taste of the mythology that would kind of become almost like the main aspect of the Real American Hero era of G.I. Joe. This is what brought Snake Eyes to the forefront.
Yes.
And he became the main character because he was just a part of an ensemble before this. So the issue started, there was no setup, like it's not a continuation of the last issue. But Cobra has kidnapped Scarlet, and Snake Eyes flies in. You see him like parachuting in there. He sneaks into the Cobra Temple, and he breaks in, and he's dispatching these red ninjas, which is the first time we ever saw red ninjas. Like, who are these guys? And so he's fighting all these red ninjas, and he finally gets to Scarlet, and he goes to rescue her. But then this white ninja shows up, and you're like, who's this guy? And he fights Storm Shadow. And the other cool thing that makes this comic so legendary is that it was called the silent issue. There's no word bubbles. There's no dialogue.
Because they're ninjas. Yeah,
so the whole issue is just silent. You're just looking at the panel artwork, and that had like never been done. It's been mimicked many times since. But, this whole fight goes on. So you see Snake Eyes breaking out a sword for the first time. And you're like, oh shit, like this guy's not just Commando. What's his deal? And at the end, he rescues Scarlet. They fly off on his glider. And then the final shot, you see Snake Eyes holding his glider like this, and his outfit, his uniform is all torn, and you see this red tattoo on his arm. And then cut back to Storm Shadow watching them fly away, and his bandages are all unraveled on his arm, and you see this red tattoo, and you're like, oh fuck, these guys have this matching tattoos. Like, what is the story here? And then they basically took that story and milked it for, several more issues, several more years. It became the focus of the movies and all that stuff. So this issue that this toy plays tribute to is kind of, it's a major, major point of the G.I. Joe mythology and everything. Anyway, so cool figure, cool card. Pretty sweet. Next figure I got, it's also an exclusive. This is the Red Ninja that I was just talking about. So again, I think this figure is just a straight repaint of the Storm Shadow figure that I already have.
Yes.
Which would be valid, because that was kind of always the case. They would just kind of repaint Storm Shadows into this guy. But yeah, this is a character I was really disappointed when I saw, oh man, he's only available in the States, because I want this guy. But now I got him. Thanks, Brian. And another Snake Eyes. So this is weird. I don't even know. I thought this was a repaint. This might be something different altogether again, because he's not the same as him.
Oh no,
They share some parts, like the head is the same. But otherwise, he's pretty different. And again, so that's good. I was expecting another... But this is a weird Snake Eyes, and this is based on something. I forget what, to be honest with you. I think maybe it's a foreign repaint or something. Like, Super 7 didn't just come up with this color scheme off the top of their head. It's weird looking. You're like, what is this baby blue and silver Snake Eyes? It's odd. But it is based on something. I can't remember what. But anyway, I wanted it when I saw it, and so... Brian hooked me up. So, because of Brian, I pretty much have a complete G.I. Joe collection. Now, it's not going to be complete because of the Super 7, the San Diego stuff, but...
Yeah.
The Transformer reaction figures have been coming out even longer than the G.I. Joe stuff. And I'm missing... I have a few gaps in my Transformers collection because of all the exclusives they were doing at Target before I really kind of tipped my brother off to keep his eyes peeled for these things. So there was like an all-gold Optimus Prime and an all-gold Bumblebee and all this stuff. Anyway, so he did get me the most recent Transformers exclusive. And this is the reformatting Megatron. So this is Megatron in a translucent purple. I recently got this figure in the 6-inch scale as part of the Transformers Red series. But yeah, I think he looks really, really cool.
That's a solid figure.
Yeah, I like that a lot. So, a pretty solid little helping of reaction figures from my little brother. So here's a closer look at my reaction figures outside of the packaging. Now, I had every intent of opening all of these figures, but as I was taking my box cutter to the packaging, I kind of took a second thought and thought, maybe I should keep this Snake Eyes in the packaging, because I already have a few other Snake Eyes figures, and where it is such a unique card, I think I might like to pin this guy up on the wall just as he is sealed. That remains to be seen. I might open him up eventually, but at least for the purposes of this video, he's going to remain sealed. So yeah, they all look pretty great. As for the Snake Eyes, so I did pull out my original Snake Eyes reaction figure, this guy here, and I now see that these guys are the same. I was remembering this guy being a little skinnier, where I thought this one looked a little bulkier, but no, it is the same figure. And I also thought, I knew he had boots on, where this guy has gotten the two-tone boots. I thought maybe that was a different sculpt, but I think it's just the paint work. So I'm pretty sure these guys are the same figure from top to bottom. But I really do like this paint job. I like it a lot more than I thought I would. You probably saw I inserted a picture of the figure from India. So after I shot the rest of the video with Chad, I kind of looked it up to try to remember where this came from. And yeah, I really appreciate that it's based off of some foreign exclusive. So very cool. As for the Red Ninja, so here is my Storm Shadow. So yeah, you can see that these guys are the same figure. They have all the same accessories. They came with a bow and arrow and 2 swords. So another very cool figure that I'm happy to have gotten. The other Snake Eyes, by the way, you can see that he is a different sculpt. I think he might have the same head, but like you see in his kind of bandoliers there, he's got a grenade and everything sculpted on his. His belt is much thicker with all kinds of little pouches and stuff. This guy doesn't have any of that. He doesn't have anything on his legs, where this guy has kind of straps on both of his legs. So a new sculpt, at least mostly. He might have some shared parts, but yeah, very cool. I like this guy a lot. And then the Megatron. So the translucent purple Megatron, if I shine a light through him here, you can kind of see how, the light goes right through. I really like the look of this guy. It is the exact same as the previous Megatron, just in the translucent purple. But yeah, again, just a really cool figure. I love these kind of little translucent little oddities. And yeah, so thank you once again, Brian, for picking up all these figures for me. Much appreciated. The last video I posted was I did a comparison of my latest wave of Godzilla reaction figures compared to my Mezco Godzillas. In that video, I said that I had these little these Godzilla reaction figures, which are based off the old 70s Shogun Warriors toy. And I have this one twice over, and they've released it 4 times. And I said, okay, that's where I'm stopping. I've got this one, and I've got the glow-in-the-dark one, which is kind of silly. He's got a glow-in-the-dark head and hands. And then they released one which is just a darker shade of green. And I was like, okay, I'm not a complete sucker. I'm not buying it. And then they released an orange one. I was like, that one's kind of cool, but I don't really need it. Anyway, I bought it. So I've got the orange one. He came in this cool little recreation of the Shogun Warriors box. And here is the figure. And so he is translucent orange. You can see through him. The light kind of shines through him. You can see his inner workings. He's got the little tongue thing that shoots out his little fire breath. And pretty cool little figure. So
let's make these in a bunch of colors to see how many Mike will buy.
I know. But the thing, I won't just keep buying green ones. You have to at least do something a little more interesting. Make it orange.
That's cool, though. It's unique.
And by the way, another Super 7 San Diego reveal, which is not an exclusive. It's going to be available on their. I think it's up for pre-order on Big Bad right now. Is they're doing that? Well, actually, this exact figure as an Ultimates. So it's a 6-inch, like $65 US figure. So this would probably cost you $80 to get this guy, but doubled in size. And it's not even. Usually, the key difference between ReAction and Ultimates is the Ultimates have a whole bunch of more articulation.
Yeah.
Since this is a recreation of an old 70s toy, even the blown up Ultimates version doesn't have any more articulation. Like, it's still just basically a 5 points of articulation figure. So I think it looks neat, but I'm good with the ReAction. I'm not buying the Ultimate version. So here's a closer look at the translucent orange Shogun Godzilla. So as I mentioned, it is the exact same sculpt as the other figures. He has the same feature where his little fire breath pops out when you hit the little knob there. Like Megatron, you can kind of shine the light right through him, and he's completely translucent, so you can kind of see how that fiery tongue kind of goes right through his head like that. Anyway, it's a very cool figure. As I said with Megatron, I'm kind of a sucker for these clear variants. I really like them, but hopefully this is maybe the last Shogun version of Godzilla that I'm going to have to buy, because now I'm more interested in these movie-based Godzilla ReAction figures that they're doing. But yeah, if this is the last one I got, I think it's a pretty great one. So a couple other things. So when I did go to that little the toy store
that you were at, where you got the Cthulhu,
Lost World or whatever, I did pick up a Lilu ReAction figure from the Fifth Element. You see her there. So I like the Fifth Element, and I didn't think those ReAction figures were very good. A lot of the early ReAction figures had very soft faces. They didn't really capture the look of the characters that much. Like, there was a Bruce Willis figure from that line. I kind of feel like once you open it out of the package, if I put that on my desk at work, nobody would know that it was supposed to be Bruce Willis. It's just, it doesn't really look like it. Her, does it look like Mila Jovovich? No, but that outfit, you're not going to mistake her for anybody else, really. It's a pretty definitive outfit. So yeah, they were selling her like loose, so she was cheap. I think she was like $10 or something, and I thought sure. So I picked her up.
So you got a loose Lilu.
I did. I can't remember what else I bought that day. Another thing I want to quickly talk about is I've talked about the Sectars line before. So this is a retro line. Do you remember them from when you were a kid?
Yeah,
so
vaguely.
The figures were like 6 or I think they were like 8 inches. They were awkwardly kind of tall, and they rode bugs, and the bugs were hand puppets, like fuzzy hand puppets. So you put your hand in the bug and you control its leg, and it had wings that flapped, and you put the 6-inch figure or whatever on the back of the thing, and it would like ride around like that. I didn't have any of them as a kid. There was too many other cool toys. And obviously, a lot of people felt that way because Sectors kind of fizzled out after like one wave of figures or so. But anyway, a new company, Zika Toys, started remaking these figures like 2 years ago, and they did. I think it started as a Kickstarter, and they made them in the 3 3/4 inch scale, which so now they're like the size of GI Joes, and they're instead of the. And I love them. Like you can see, I've got the whole series pinned up there. This is a repaint. This guy here, General Spydrax, the original figure was released the exact same, except oops, I just broke his little helmet came off. I don't think it's supposed to, but anyway. So he usually has like purple armor, like metallic kind of purple armor, but then they released this shadow version of him in black, and it's kind of thing like, do I really need a repaint of him?
I mean, I think that looks cool.
I think it looks cool too. So I didn't buy it right away. Like, this figure came out like a year ago. But it's just one of those things that, like, I've got all the other ones. I just passed on this one because it's a repaint figure, but I'm like, it still looks cool. And so he comes with a ton of accessories. I'm all bagged up, but he's got like an alternate head with like this is the scowling face. You probably can't see it anyway, but he has a more neutral face. He's got a gun, he's got a shield, he's got 2 pistols, he's got a whip, like 8 extra hands. So very cool little General Spydrax from Zika Toys. So here's a closer look at the figures we were just talking about, as well as a few others that I just didn't have time to squeeze into the video. So first off, here's Lilu from the Fifth Element. So now that you can see her up close, you can see what I'm talking about. She's got that very unique outfit that she had on at the start of the movie, where it's just a bunch of like basically tape wrapped around her. So, I think that's pretty recognizable as Lilu. And she came with a little gun, as well as this little this little artifact from the movie as well. Just this little stone piece, one of the elements. Then there's Spydrax. So this is Spydrax in his shadow armor. So now that you see him up close, you can see how much nice detail is in this sculpt. And just how articulated he is. He's got the double jointed knees and everything, so really good range of movement. He's got the holstered guns, those can come out. He's also got his whip here, which is a nice little pliable plastic, and a shield. I've got him here with his more neutral face on. So this is a redo of a figure that we got earlier. So here he is with the alternate scowling face. But otherwise it's the same figure. They just painted the purple parts black. And that's why I initially passed on it. I just thought it seemed a little redundant to me. But I always have so much fun whenever I open one of these Sector figures from Zika Toys, that after some time passed and I hadn't got one in a while, I thought, you know what, I'm going to buy that one that I passed on initially. And these guys all have little magnets on their feet too, which is pretty cool. So you can stick them on the side of your refrigerator and everything. So yeah, very cool. Some other figures here. So I bought a couple more of the Marvel Legends 3 3/4 inch figures, which are basically ReAction figures. They have 5 points for articulation, and then an additional points because their wrist spins. So they're actually 7 points of articulation. But they're really cool. I like these guys a lot. So this is Bullseye from Daredevil, and then Vision from the Avengers. And those guys I actually picked up at a grocery store, and I was able to get them for free with my points. Here I've got a G.I. Joe ReAction figure. This is just the G.I. Joe Trooper. I think the Combat Engineer is what they were called. So whenever Super 7 does these generic trooper types, they do them in a bunch of different varieties. That way you can build a little army without buying the exact same figure over and over again. So I previously got this figure. You can see here she's white-skinned, and she's got a ponytail. This one here is dark-skinned, and she's got a bun. So each one of the figures are available in 3 different skin tones and 3 different hairdos. So you can get 9 different ones in total. That's a little bit overkill as far as I'm concerned, so I just decided to buy these 2. But yeah, so I got this one a little while ago when I ordered the whole rest of the wave. I'm not sure why this figure was delayed, but I got it now, and it's a cool little figure. So there you go. And the last ones I wanted to mention here, these are some old figures from the early 80s that my buddy Miguel picked up for me at a yard sale the other day, and he didn't even know what they were. He just saw them and thought of me. So this is Ovion from the original Battlestar Galactica, and this is Thalo from the 1983 Clash of the Titans movie. So very cool. I really appreciate that he thought of me to grab these little figures. I actually already have this guy in my collection, but he's the kind of guy, he looks like a troop builder, so you could have a few of these guys on display. And Ovion, my brother Doug had this guy when we were kids, and I always loved him. So yeah, it's pretty cool to finally get this guy as well. I got Haunt from McFarlane Toys.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, so Haunt is a character that Todd McFarlane co-created with Robert Kirkman of Walking Dead and Invincible fame. And I collected the comic book while they were on it, but then after I think the first 12 issues or so, they changed up the creative and they changed the artist or something. And anyway, I just kind of lost interest in it, and I think a lot of people did because I don't think it lasted a whole lot longer after I stopped. I think it probably only made it about 18 issues, and then the series was done. And so then this character seemed like maybe he was just going to fade away into obscurity, but they've recently integrated him into the Spawn universe, and now he's a pretty prominent character in the current Spawn comic books. So, of course, Todd McFarlane, as the co-creator of this guy, integrated him into his new Spawn toy line. So yeah, this guy's brand new. I just picked him up. He did come with a bunch of accessories. He's got all this extra kind of goopy pieces to just display around him. He's got this part that extends on his arm because he's kind of like Venom. He's made of living goop. Excuse me. So that's pretty cool. To be honest, I'm a little disappointed with the figure. I think his feet look a little too dainty. Yeah. And his neck doesn't move very well. I feel like his head's almost sitting too low on his body, and I feel like maybe if he could look around more, but it's... So there's some issues with this figure. I kind of wish it was a little better because I don't know if we're going to be getting another version of this guy anytime soon. But it's not bad, and I'm glad I got him. So here is a closer look at Haunt. Again, you can see all of his accessories here. So he comes with the standard Spawn display base, which isn't really big enough. I wish they were a little bit bigger and had pegs for both of the feet. He also came with the goopy stuff I showed you earlier. This actually has a little peg in it as well, so you can kind of use this to display his other foot on it, or you could use this as opposed to the base to kind of help him stand up. He also has this little removable piece here, which just kind of attaches to his limbs, but it is removable. And then he had 2 extra hands as well. So these ones are just kind of weird, like deformed hands. And yeah, so you get some options. And here's a closer look at the figure himself. So, you know, he's unique. You know, with this design of it's kind of like a full face mask, except just it stops right at his upper lip and then his exposed chin. You know, it's a weird choice, but you know, I think it helps make him stand out, so he doesn't look as much like Venom and Carnage and all the other symbiotes over at Marvel. That exposed chin is like a, you know, it's a minor thing, but it does differentiate him. He does have this swirly design on his chest, which would have been different from the symbiotes at Marvel, but actually in more recent Carnage stories, he has developed a swirl on his chest as well. So this guy shares a lot of characteristics with those guys over at Marvel. You know, the black and white color scheme is definitely reminiscent of Venom. But yeah, it's not a bad figure. I was looking forward to this guy. I'm glad I got him, but all the things I pointed out earlier, like his feet just look a little, like it looked like he's wearing little socks or something. I wish his feet, you know, were a little larger, or maybe he had clawed feet or something that just, they look a little too small. And as I mentioned with the neck, he seems to have this really thick neck, and I feel his head should sit up a little bit higher, and there's not a whole lot of range of movement with the head. Like maybe if he could look all the way back, it wouldn't look so bad, but you can only move it back so far. So anyway, not bad. I'm glad I got him anyway, so I now have a Haunt in my collection, and he's pretty cool. Here's a weird one. So I opened this guy up, but it does have a resealable card. The plastic slides off of it, so you can...
That's cool.
But this is from a line called Amazing Heroes. You ever seen these?
Vaguely familiar.
So I think this was a Kickstarter from a few years ago. Because this is series 1. I think they did 4 series of this figures. And so this is made by a company called Fresh Monkey Fiction. And basically what it is, it's either independent comic book characters like Madman here. So he's a character by Mike Allred, who's, you know, he's just self-published type of thing. And then it's also some like public domain, like really golden age characters. And so I've seen these figures around, and I'm not really old enough to appreciate golden age characters. A lot of these characters, like Dynamite, does current comic books with some of these characters. Anyway, so I've seen them around. I didn't buy them, but I was at the Strange Adventures Dartmouth location. So
the Sidekick store.
Yeah, so my main comic book store that I go to pretty much every week, they have another store over in Dartmouth, which kind of sells, like whenever they're ready to mark things down, they ship them over to their like little discount store, and it's only open like 2 days a week. So I was in there the other day when I was doing a toy run with my brother Doug, and they had all their toys. They're normally 50% off everything that's over there, but they were 75% off because they were trying to clear stuff out. So anyway, the figure that's actually in this packaging is this guy here. So this is a character. His name is actually Daredevil. So he was created before Marvel's Daredevil ever existed. So when Dynamite started publishing comic books of him modern, they had to call him the Death-Defying Devil to kind of differentiate him. So now I'm sure Marvel has the name Daredevil copyrighted. But technically on this packaging, he's still called Daredevil. Because that is the character's actual name. I've never read any of Dynamite's comic books, but I wouldn't be surprised if they actually refer to him as Daredevil in the comic book. It's more just like what they have to call him on the cover. So anyway, it's a really simple little figure, and it's got no articulation in the knees or elbows. It's just basically a 5-point figure, but it's not like a ReAction figure. It's supposed to be modeled after like the Superpowers and the Secret Wars figures of the 80s. So it's like a different kind of retro, where ReAction are like 70s retro. This guy's like 80s retro. And so yeah, it was just kind of a random thing because he was 75% off. It only cost me like $5 or something. And he was the most interesting. They had a handful of them there.
I'm going to plead a little ignorance with this guy. So I saw you posted a picture of him on Instagram.
Yeah.
And right away I was like, what kind of fucking Daredevil is this? I've never seen that. So I was looking into it, and I'm like, I don't think he ever looked like that in the early iterations. And then, of course, yeah, I found out that it was from a different line.
Yeah. And kind of I've seen these guys around, and I've been curious about them before. I think the Golden Age heroes look fun, even though I don't know anything about them. But they've recently changed. They're still doing this line, but instead of Amazing Heroes, now they're called Long Box Heroes. And there's a new Kickstarter out, and it's a little more contemporary characters. Like it's the character the Goon from Dark Horse. I don't know if you know him. It's Cassie Hack from Hack Slash. So there's less the Golden Age and more like just independent characters. They're redoing Madman again. I can't remember who else is all in there, but they're up for pre-order now on their Kickstarter. And I was like wondering, do I want to buy one or two of them? The Rocketeer is in. The Rocketeer. He's in the new set, and even though I have other Rocketeer figures, he's a character that I just love kind of getting any new version of him. So I thought I might get the Rocketeer, and I'm like, you know what? I kind of wish I bought one of those figures when I'd seen them before, so I had a sense of if they were any good or not. And literally within a couple of days of me having that thought, I find them for 75% off. So I'm like, I'm going to buy this guy, not only because I think he's pretty neat on his own, but it kind of gives me a sense of him for like, do I want to invest further and buy the Rocketeer and maybe some of the other characters. So here's a closer look at Daredevil outside of the packaging. The figure is quite simple. Like you can see, he's there's not many joints, nothing at the ankles, knees, elbows, wrists, anything like that. The head turns side to side, the arms forward and backward only, and the legs forward and backwards only. So he does move like a standard ReAction figure, but as I noted, ReAction figures are kind of inspired by the Kenner figures of the late 70s, very early 80s, whereas this guy is more inspired by these two lines, which were the superhero lines that were very prominent in the 80s. So we had DC's Superpowers and Marvel's Secret Wars. And honestly, when I saw these figures, for the last couple of years, I thought they were modeled more after the Superpower figures. But once I actually bought the figure and displayed them with it, I realized that I think it's closer to a Secret Wars, because these figures do actually have knee joints, and they can stand upright, like they can stand tall there. Whereas the Secret Wars figures, I remember they all kind of had bent knees, kind of like the way He-Man's were all kind of squatty like that. So you can see Hobgoblin would be much taller if he actually stood upright, but he looks like a shorter figure because of the way he's hunched. Now, I don't know if the bend of the knee was that prominent on all the figures. I never had that many. I had Dr. Doom when I was a kid, but I must have got rid of him. But I remember he had a bended knee as well. And that's what you see on these figures here. So, he's kind of meant to blend in with these figures here. So if this is your style of figure, I think these Amazing Heroes would fit fit into your collection nicely. So he doesn't have any accessories. The only thing he has is this belt, which is not removable, I don't think. Well, maybe. You can see the seam where I think that they probably glued it. But I'm sure you could pop that off if you really wanted to. But, it fits him okay. It is a little awkward. Like it doesn't fit him all that naturally. And it doesn't quite stay in place. But, it's a simple figure. And I appreciate it for what it is. And I might actually go back to the store and pick up a couple more of these guys at 75% off, just because they are kind of fun and they're pretty cheap. But we should wrap this up, and then I think you're going to stick around and help me shoot, at least partially shoot, my next episode, which will be the 200th anniversary episode. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so that's all I've got. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. Leave us comments. Any closing statements?
I will talk about my sign-off tonight. So, Nova Scotia was the hottest place in Canada today. So, really? I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. It was a hot day today. Very hot. I have another little story, but it's not toy-related. I'll talk to you about it off camera. The heat made me think of it. But, okay. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you for watching. Ciao.
Stay cool.